I never cared for those office parties. They always felt more like a staged performance than a real celebration. People laughing too loudly, pretending to be close, pretending they didn't secretly resent each other. But that night, I went for her. Megan insisted. "It matters, Jake," she told me while fixing her earring in the mirror. "He's choosing someone for promotion soon, and it looks good if we both show up." I nodded, the way a supportive husband should. Optics. That word sat heavy in my chest. I worked construction. I didn't think about optics. I thought about honesty, hard work, and keeping my word. We got to her boss's house around 8. One of those cold, stylish places with too many windows and not enough soul. Everything was polished, expensive, and empty. Music pulsed from hidden speakers and people floated around in small groups, holding drinks they didn't seem to like. Megan blended in perfectly. She always did. She laughed softly, moved with confidence, her hand brushing arms when she spoke. I stayed near the bar, sipping a beer, watching her glow in a world that never had space for me. At first, it seemed harmless. She chatted with her boss, Richard, tall, smooth, the kind of man who controls a room without trying. I'd met him once. He shook my hand like he was testing my strength. Tonight, his eyes lingered too long when she talked. She didn't notice, or acted like she didn't. An hour slipped by. The laughter got louder, the alcohol stronger. Megan's face reddened, and her voice carried above the music. She was past her limit. I thought about taking her home, but every time I walked toward her, she waved me off with a grin. "Just a little longer," she said. Then I lost track of her. The crowd shifted, bodies moved, and when I saw her again, she was in the middle of the room. Glass raised, words slurring. "To Richard," she announced. The best boss a girl could ever ask for. Laughter spread around the room. Richard smirked, placing his hand lightly on her lower back, too light for it to be innocent. My jaw tightened. She saw me watching, and something flickered across her face. Guilt, or maybe just surprise. But she didn't stop. She leaned closer to him, whispered something that made his grin grow. His hand stayed where it was. She didn't move away. People started paying attention. A quiet shift rolled through the room, that uncomfortable silence that cuts right through loud music. I noticed a couple of her coworkers exchange looks. One woman bit her lip and turned away. Then it happened quickly. Richard said something, too low for me to hear, and Megan laughed too loudly, grabbing his tie, nearly spilling her drink. He steadied her at the waist. For a moment, they stood like that, too close, too familiar, in front of everyone. My chest tightened. My ears buzzed. I wanted to pretend it was nothing. But you can't misread certain touches, not when you've loved someone long enough to know every version of their body language. Someone cracked a joke. The spell broke, and the music picked up again. But for me, the night had already ended. She came over an hour later, her smile thin. "You're quiet," she said, looping her arm through mine. I didn't look at her. "You've had enough to drink." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Oh, come on. Don't start." I just said, "Let's go." The car ride home was silent, except for the rain tapping the windshield. She kept glancing at me, trying to find the right sentence. I didn't offer one. When we pulled into the driveway, she reached for my hand. I pulled it back. "You embarrass me tonight." She froze, eyes wide. "It wasn't." "Don't," I said quietly. "Not right now." She turned toward the window, her reflection broken by the rain. For the first time in years, she looked like a stranger sitting beside me. The next morning, the house felt wrong. Too still, too quiet, like it knew something had split between us. Megan moved softly, avoiding my eyes. She made coffee, but didn't drink it. I sat at the table, staring at the steam rising from my mug, pretending to read the news on my phone. Finally, she said, "Jake, about last night." I didn't look up. "What about it?" Her voice shook. "I had way too much to drink. You know how those office parties are." "Yeah," I said. "I was there." She let out a frustrated breath. "You're making this bigger than it is." "It was just harmless fun." I set my phone down slowly. Harmless. Your boss had his hand on your waist in front of everyone. Her face reddened. It wasn't like that. You're twisting it into something it wasn't. Do you even remember it? I asked. She hesitated. That pause said more than any answer could. I stood, walked to the sink, staring out the window. Outside was peaceful, sunlight over the grass, birds perched on the fence. Normal life. Inside, everything felt uneven, tilted. I didn't mean to embarrass you, she said softly. It just got out of control. Then why does it feel like you wanted an audience? She blinked. What? You lit up every time he looked at you, I said. You enjoyed the attention. She folded her arms tight. Is that what you think I am? I think, I said, turning toward her. You forgot I was standing right there. Neither of us spoke. The space between us felt like open ground. She looked away first, mumbling, "You're being dramatic." I almost laughed, not because it was amusing but because it was so predictable. The oldest defense in history. Paint the hurt person as unreasonable. The day dragged in pieces. Her scrolling through her phone. Me tightening screws on cabinets that didn't need fixing. We drifted around each other like ghosts living in a house built on old memories. By evening, the silence was unbearable. I'm going out, I said, grabbing my keys. Where? Does it matter? I drove without direction, just road, thoughts, and anger simmering quietly. At every stoplight, the image rewound. Her hand on his tie, the exaggerated laugh, the way the room fell quiet, the look in his eyes, confident, almost claiming her. My grip on the steering wheel ached. When I finally returned, she was on the couch, still in her work clothes, eyes swollen. We need to talk, she said. I stayed near the doorway. Go ahead. She took a shaky breath. It was stupid, I know. But it meant nothing. Please don't let one mistake destroy everything. One mistake, I said quietly, or one moment that showed me who you've become. Her face crumpled. Tears fell, small, silent ones. Jake, I love you. I wanted to accept it. God, a part of me still did. But love isn't supposed to humiliate you. Love isn't supposed to make you feel small in a room full of strangers. I don't know if I believe that anymore, I said. She covered her face and cried. I stood there, torn between the man who loved her and the man who couldn't pretend anymore. That night, I slept in the guest room. The bed was too big, the air too cold. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, finally facing a truth I'd dodged for years. We hadn't been happy in a long time. The party didn't break us. It only ripped away the last layer, hiding the cracks. Weeks went by. Work. Dinners. Silence. Routine without closeness. One morning, while she packed her bag for work, she paused at the door. Richard is hosting another event next month, she said quietly. I won't go if you don't want me to. I looked at her for a long moment. It's not about the event, Megan. It's about respect. She nodded slowly, eyes shining with something between guilt and surrender. I'm sorry, she whispered. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. But apologies don't rebuild what's broken. They just decorate the rubble. That weekend, I packed a small bag and drove to my brother's cabin. I didn't leave speeches or arguments, just a short note. I need space to remember who I am when I'm not being forgotten. The lake was quiet. I sat on the porch watching the water ripple under the wind. For the first time in months, I felt something like peace. Not happiness, not yet, but clarity. Sometimes betrayal isn't a kiss in the dark or a secret message. Sometimes it's a laugh too loud, shared with someone who shouldn't matter. Sometimes it's the slow erosion of respect disguised as harmless fun. Megan texted a few days later. Are we okay? I stared at the message before replying. We're honest now. That counts for something. Then I turned off my phone, leaned back, and let the silence tell me everything I'd been missing. The quiet truth that sometimes walking away isn't giving up. It's remembering you're